I'm Cami.
I'm Brian.
You have to record yourself.
Oh, I'm Joe.
Okay. Fortnite, Minecraft, Call of Duty. You may have recognized one of these items listed. Well, those items listed were video games. Almost everyone at least once in their life has played a video game. However, in this time period, it has become more frequent to start playing video games at a much younger age. A child's brain is still developing rather fast at a young age, so a large amount of screen time could affect this. According to Hank Pellicer, in his article, Your Child's Brain on Technology, Video Games, he states that today kids spend an average of about 7 hours on an electronic device. 7 hours is about an average school or work day. If children are spending this much time on their devices playing games, how does this affect their brain development? This much time in front of a device could greatly affect the way children act and perceive things that happen in their everyday life. Now we will see the effects of video games on a child's brain. Negative or positive, it still affects their development. Columbine, Sandy Hook, and Parkland unfortunately all sound too familiar. These were some of the biggest school shootings ever recorded in American history. School shootings could possibly have a link to video games. Not regular video games like Mario Kart or Wii Sports, but rather the violent video games that encourage children to shoot and kill other characters. In Hank Pellicer's article, he states that findings in a 2014 report recorded that youths who had played video games that were violent in the past year were 4 times more likely to report they'd carried a weapon to school. Just because these children played violent video games, they're at a higher risk of bringing harmful items onto their school campuses. These video games could be putting ideas into their heads that it is okay to do these things. In reality, it is not. Although not all video games are based on violence or gruesome scenes, a lot of them are addicting. Many video games can become addicting whether you're trying to beat your new high score or advance to a new level. You then don't realize how long you've been playing because you're in a trance. These addicting qualities are what leads to those 7-hour time periods that a child is on screen time. McFadden, in his article, Playing Video Games Can Actually Change the Brain, states that observations were made on a brain under the influence of video games, and the neural changes are similar to those seen in addictive disorders. So although video games may not have a physical impact on a child, it does have a mental impact on how their brain reacts to a game and they're playing or longing to play. If the child is addicted to the wrong type of game, it could greatly influence their actions and personality traits. If they are addicted to a violent, bloody game, then they might have a worse attitude compared to a child playing a more appropriate game that doesn't influence them to make bad decisions. Although certain video games can lead to violence or bad decisions, they also help the brain to develop. Video games are usually action-packed and fast-paced, so a child has to learn to keep up with it. While using a controller, a child is using the fine motor skills to quickly move their fingers and hands to play the game correctly. Some video games like the Kinect or Wii even utilize gross motor skills to jump, run, and move around to play the sports that are on the game. Video games similar to these allow the child's brain to develop and learn these skills while playing good, appropriate games. These are the types of games that should be promoted to a younger age rather than games involving guns and violence. Lindsay Dodgson from Business Insider states that instead of taking video games away completely, they should be a case of them playing in moderation. Adults, too, must moderate many things like alcoholic beverages, desserts, and even spending money. Children can learn to moderate video games so it still helps the brain with motor skills but doesn't give them the chance to negatively impact a child's thought process. Children will always have video games or some type of technology that they will have access to, although which games are hindering or altering their development rather than helping it. Certain video games can be positive or even educational. However, there are many violent and inappropriate video games as well. Video games can play a large role in violence, whether it's a mass shooting like a Parkland incident or getting into a fight with a friend. It is all considered violence. Ultimately, these video games will impact a child however that child wants to be impacted. If they don't want negativity, then they won't play those negative games. However, with video games, there will always be positive and negative effects. The brain develops the most when we are children, so video games can change the way we grow up and what our decisions are. With the rise of screen time allotted per day It makes you think what children are actually learning during that 7-hour average period. Is it helpful or is it hurtful? And then say your name. Say your names again.
Cammy.
Lola.
Hi.
Did you get, what's her name?
Yeah.
Brian.
Hey, I'm Joe.